Parkinson's disease. This disease changes the lives of many people, which is why it is all the more important that we talk about it today. You will find out who my expert is today after the intro, so definitely stay tuned. See you soon.
Yes, welcome back and a warm welcome, dear Dorothea Zeise-Süß. It's great that you've come today. You are a doctor, an author, and a researcher. I heard grandma, proud grandma.
Yes, it's great that you're here today. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, I'm very happy to be here. Yes, it's a very important topic. Perhaps we can start by clarifying what Parkinson's disease actually is. What is it?
Everyone talks about Parkinson's disease. No one knows what it is, where it comes from, the symptoms. The only thing that comes to mind is shaking palsy. And that's how it's encoded in this code that doctors have. But the shaking, the trembling, is often not the problem at all, but simply the increasing slowness when walking or talking. The handwriting becomes smaller, the movements become more erratic. It is like a brake is being applied, and patients who receive this diagnosis immediately find themselves pushed back into a corner from which they can no longer escape, and often withdraw from their surroundings because they think, I can't keep up anymore, I can't hike anymore, I can't ride a bike anymore. Parkinson's is a progressive stiffening that occurs because less dopamine is produced in the brain. We still don't know exactly why. There are some approaches, but there is no definitive cause yet.
Is there somehow a certain tendency for people who are more affected by it? Or is it perhaps not yet sufficiently researched, or is it just random?
Well, first of all, we can say that it is not hereditary. There is discussion about whether the disease is hereditary in those who develop it under the age of 40. Apart from that, there is currently a discussion about whether heavy metal contamination, particularly in wine growers, is caused by pesticides.
The cause in France is that wine growers use copper-containing pesticides in the summer, and Parkinson's is already recognized as an occupational disease in Germany. Now wine growers and farmers are also coming after the many pesticides. Heavy metals are one of the approaches, and there are many other approaches involving incorrectly folded proteins that travel from the intestines to the brain, etc. But as I said, there is nothing definitive, not even which pesticides or which heavy metals.
It is more of a general fog of thought at the moment. But you can already see that the trend is increasing.
Very much increasing. It is currently explosive. And it's simply like this. The older people get, I can see it in myself when I remember painting my parents' garden fence. It was stuff that took your breath away for days, or the paints you used to paint the walls with, you didn't even notice the pollutants in them. I think that's the reason why the longer the brain has to practically trigger it away, the more symptoms of illness appear. It's mainly older people who get sick.
Yes. Well, probably the dose makes the poison, i.e. over the entire lifespan, what all is collected there.
Exactly.
And there's a lot we don't know at all. A lot of it isn't official. Even organic pesticides contain lead, but in a dose that is still permitted. But we don't know what is permitted and what is good for people. Yes, exactly. Are there certain typical signs that perhaps the beginnings of Parkinson's disease are already underway? Yes, in the past I have often tried to simply observe, and in the meantime there are also external efforts and research at the university, where I also have a teaching position, to look for where the early symptoms are, because the earlier you recognize it, the sooner you can take countermeasures. It's as simple as speaking more slowly at the beginning, the handwriting gets smaller or the arm no longer swings when the group moves and asks, why is his left arm hanging around like this? These are early symptoms, sometimes also pain in the shoulder, where you then think, well, okay, he has somehow sprained something orthopedically, but that can also be an early symptom.
Yes, so you have to take a closer look at that, not even think, yes, this is just temporary. I'm speaking domo now. It's mainly the family doctors who do early detection because they know their patients and suddenly notice, oh, he's walking strangely, and then send him on to a neurologist. Yes.
Discover your favorite experts on Wikisana now.
What are the current classic treatment options?
Well, of course there are medications. There's dopamine, which is produced in less of this substance, yes, Nicaraguan in the brain. Then, we have a nerve transmission from one nerve to the next, and we have this synaptic gap, and in this synaptic gap there are substances. These are agonists of various kinds, which prolong the survival of the dopamine in the synaptic gap. Dopamine enters the synaptic gap, so it reaches the target nerve. Less dopamine, less reaches the target nerve. So we can either increase the dopamine or we can increase these agonists so that they prolong the survival of the dopamine, so that more reaches the target. That's actually what the medications that are currently used do. There are many others, but I think that would go too far. It is also important that patients move around, especially if they have always done sports. If they are diagnosed with something like, oh, I can't ride a bike anymore, I'll fall over, or I can't do sports anymore, they should just keep going and keep going. And that's also the second topic we want to discuss here, this SiWAVE, which was developed in my home area by Mr. Wager. I am a big fan of this vibration plate because it clearly does the patients good and because it improves blood circulation, muscle development, and coordination. So simply stay active and, depending on the language, speech therapy, or fine motor skills, occupational therapy. Physiotherapy, according to Bob, is important because it is not just any physiotherapy, but the Bob method promotes sensory motor transmission. In other words, the brain receives a signal, but has to transmit it to the muscle. That's why the Bob method is so important.
How can you imagine this SiWAVE? The SiWAVE is a vibration plate. There are plenty of vibration plates out there. Random impulses are given, and to avoid falling off, you either have to hold on or stand with your legs slightly apart.
The SW works with a sinus oscillation, which is our natural movement pattern, and you can stand in a comfortable position, so no forced posture, so that your joints are also protected. Then they oscillate in sinus rhythm, and you can adjust the frequency and amplitude, so you can always provide different stimuli. So we always do this for 10 minutes with our Parkinson's or other neurodegenerative patients such as MS or post-stroke or dizziness, and start with a lower frequency, then increase it to the level the patient can tolerate, and then back down again. So there is always a new stimulus, a new response from the body, and I like that. Well, firstly, that it is a natural position, joint damage, and secondly, that you stubbornly follow the patient when they say, now I'm getting dizzy, or, no, I don't like it anymore, that you can immediately slow down but don't have to interrupt the therapy.
Yes, sounds great, but also very safe, especially if it's already advanced, instead of getting on the bike now. Sure, you've already made the recommendation to definitely continue, but maybe at some point it will get to the point where it might be a bit more safety related and that you don't have to give up exercise completely.
Exactly. There's also the gangway, which is a railing on the left and right. You can hold onto it, that provides a lot of security.
Yes, great.
And you can also do exercises on the SiWAVE,
which are also specifically for the hips or when the muscles stiffen. The joints often also conduct energy underneath, and then you can make movements with very mild vibrations, so that the muscles then relearn these movement patterns. Why is dopamine so essential?
Dopamine is a hormone that actually makes up our reward system, and dopamine is needed not only in the brain but also in the intestines. That's why you can unfortunately measure dopamine in the blood, but that doesn't tell you whether the brain is still producing enough. And dopamine belongs to one of these cascades of various interactions of different hormones, and if it is missing, then the pressure on the synapses is simply missing, and the more it is missing, purely in terms of quantity, the worse the movement and the worse the psychological state, because this reward hormone is missing, just like serotonin is the happiness hormone.
Dopamine is the reward hormone. Ah, yes. Yes, then it has a huge impact on the psyche, not only the restrictions, which are already more than enough, but then there's
also the relatives who say, walk up straight, stand up straight, take big steps. And that's well-intentioned, but it's often even more stressful for the patient, because they can do it, they just don't always manage to do it.
No, I'd like to, right?
Yes, it's a very, very stressful disease. That's also the reason why I'm so committed to it. I've been retired for a long time, but I see that Parkinson's patients simply don't have a lobby, and I would really like this to get out to the public more, so that our fellow human beings can learn to deal with Parkinson's patients better.
Yes, that's a great point you made here. You also told me something about an elderly lady shortly before filming started. Could you perhaps explain that briefly, because I think that's very strong of this woman, but also very, very sad at the same time. Maybe we can show you something here.
Yes, I admire this woman, who is 88 years old, has limited mobility, but is in a really good mood mentally, because she says, "I live my life the way I want to." And when she is criticized because she can't get the money out of her wallet quickly enough at the checkout, then she has built herself, like the conductor, a fly swatter, as we call it, and it says, "I'm not stupid, I have a few children." And when someone makes a stupid remark, she pulls it out of her 5-pocket chin and holds it out, beaming as she does so, and people fall silent. I think that's actually the way to go. Now, it's not possible for everyone to react like that, but I find it quite admirable.
Yes, very much. And she also shows people that hey, maybe they should think further. Maybe there's a reason why the person isn't as fast at the moment, or maybe there's a reason why a person walks a little differently than others, so that you don't always immediately judge or think about these people. A man once came to me, a seasoned police officer, 70 years old. He was crying bitterly and I asked, "What's wrong?" And then he told me he was shopping, and then a little girl said to her mother, "Why is that man looking so angry? And he's not angry at all, and he didn't look angry either, but he just had this masked face." That's another symptom.
That I haven't mentioned yet, where the facial features freeze and then you look grumpy, but you're not. And that simply means that you can't smile as well anymore. These interpersonal, or rather facial expressions, eventually disappear. And of course you're then immediately labeled as angry or unfriendly. These are all things that, before you label someone, you first have to look at what's behind it. Maybe.
When I hear about it, how often does depression come into play?
Very often, very often. And when the burden on the relatives is certainly great, then of course it is exacerbated. Yes, the patient sees that, their partner simply has to worry about their strength. Yes, they are also constantly afraid of falling or constantly not sleeping, because you don't know whether the patient can turn over in bed, whether they can't do it when they have to go to the toilet, whether they can do it or whether they will fall on the way. But there are also many aids, and I simply think that you should proactively make sure that you take every aid with you. The health insurance companies pay for many of them. There is very little demand because this withdrawal from the patients is simply always the primary situation.
And of course I am also counteracting this with my acupuncture. So, in addition to tablets and all these movement modes that I have mentioned, you can definitely do something with acupuncture. That's one of my specialties. That's why I'm here. Yes, let's get into that topic right away. What's acupuncture about? Well, when I learned acupuncture, like classical traditional Chinese acupuncture, there are hardly any points.
And then I learned about motor skull acupuncture. It's a system with its own microsystem, where all the points that respond to the body, on the skull, are therefore skull acupuncture. So a microsystem like hand acupuncture or ear acupuncture or something like that. And then, when I learned that, I discovered points that didn't exist before. And then I did some research on empirical medicine, just to see what they do. And it would take me too long to go into detail now. First, I discovered that I could use these points to change hormones. All hormones in the pituitary gland area, including female hormones, breastfeeding, desire to have children, thyroid gland. Now you can laugh and say, okay, 1 point for all hormones, yes or no, because the body already knows what it has to repair when it gets the signal. And that's how I came up with it and was even able to prove in the laboratory that these points are also effective for Parkinson's. And that's why acupuncture thrives on repetition, because with acupuncture you stimulate the body and then substances are formed, and these are proteins. Proteins in the body, when they are newly built, are reduced in about a week, which you notice because the effect wears off within a week. For some patients it's 2 weeks, for others it's half a week. It depends a bit on the individual, but it's usually a week and, yes, these points were recognized by Yamamoto and fortunately named after me. That's why DZS points are called sweet points and they are now quite well known, and now I had the problem that many people come to me from far away and I look at the points here, acupoint here, and the effect is like this, and now they go home again and then it's over. And so I developed this helmet, which I also brought with me. And I spent a long time looking for this material. It's material from hairdressing supplies. This is what hairdressers need when they make wigs. Then they also have to make impressions so that the wig sits on the head. So it's a film that is clamped into a frame. Then it is made flexible and transparent with hot water. And now I do, so I first look for the points on the patient's head, draw them on the scalp with a permanent marker, then I pull it over, model this helmet, and, because it is still transparent, I can transfer the points that I have drawn onto the helmet. And the rest of the process is simple. I spent some time with a soldering iron. Now I have a very elegant mini helmet. Then I make holes where the points are and then the patients can put the helmet on. It definitely fits properly because it is adapted to the head. It
is individually tailored to the patient.
Yes, and the ear cutouts, so it can't fit incorrectly. So the holes are actually over the points, where they are. And then either the patient or a relative can simply acupress these points with a knitting needle. They can do this 2 or 3 times a week, depending on the symptoms. And it is also a stimulus, not quite as strong as the needle stimulus, but a stimulus that can be repeated and that is very noticeable. Another example of a patient is always good. I have a patient who wanted to button a shirt button and couldn't do it. Then he put on a helmet, massaged the front points, which are the doping points, and then it worked by closing it, as I was just told yesterday.
What you're saying here is sensational. Are you even aware of what you've just created? For me, these are simply logical steps and I see what this means for the patients, and that's actually what drives me to keep going, to keep looking at materials and so on. And I'm very happy. So I've made 35 helmets in total over the last few years and have now started an evaluation, and I have to say that, with a few exceptions, the patients really do feel significantly better. Some of them have to take fewer tablets or the symptoms are progressing less. The only thing I can't say for sure that it always works is severe tremor. Tremor must have something else somewhere, like tremor is this shaking, there must be other underlying problems somewhere. It's getting a little better, but I can't get rid of the tremor 100% with this acupuncture or even with the helmet. Or not yet. Maybe not yet. There is a Chinese tremor line. The Chinese also have cranial acupuncture, but that's more for strokes. There's a torque line, which I sometimes do, sometimes it works, so I'm still working on the tremor. Maybe I'll be lucky and find something. What you've created here is incredibly exciting. So to summarize, you're actually bringing regulatory medicine to the patient's home in an individualized way. That's how it is. Yes, exactly. Yes. And then we can also set up the system, and then the patient can really take control of it themselves. If they notice that they need something, that they're not feeling well today because something has changed or something, then they can take the helmet and massage the points. You have to be careful not to massage them too often. I've experienced that too.
I was just about to ask, why not do it every morning as a routine? It's like this, you can also overdose on doping in tablet form, and the overdose either manifests itself in addictions, compulsive shopping, gambling addiction, and so on, or in hallucinations or sleep disorders, in the sense of, I'm hitting out at myself or something and I don't even notice it. And then you realize that it's happening too often. Usually, a maximum of 3 times a week. Depending on how many tablets you take, twice a week is often enough. Or if there's a family celebration and I have to be present, I'll do it shortly beforehand. So, you can customize it.
Very, very exciting. If you're lucky enough to get a customized helmet, do you still have to discuss it with your doctor, get treated, to see how it really affects your body? Do I need to make any adjustments? You
always have to. I think Parkinson's is a disease that always needs to be treated neurologically, and that always needs to be treated by a neurologist with fine-tuning if things are going well. Unfortunately, many neurologists have no access to naturopathic treatments. That means I've had my share of struggles with this, but it doesn't matter. Keep fighting because it's important to keep an eye on the patient, and my primary care physician is often the one I talk to because the primary care physician sees the patient more often and sees if they're getting worse, because often the patients themselves don't want to acknowledge that they're getting worse. And if the primary care physician says they're looking at things differently today, then we can discuss it. In that respect, feedback from conventional medicine is absolutely essential. Because I'm a general practitioner who is completely focused on conventional medicine. I also had a teaching position in general medicine in Heidelberg for a long time. So that's my home. Naturopathy is the perspective where you can see what else you can do with other options, including herbal medicine. And the third perspective is Asian medicine. And then I have a comprehensive view of the patient, which is called holistic medicine or multimodal treatment, and that is actually my goal, but never forget that conventional medicine is the basis. That's what
I also like about you, that you don't say neither, nor that, but you simply take the best from everywhere and combine it for the well-being of the patient. And ultimately, the patient knows it themselves, and if I listen to the patient, then I can implement it.
Which is why I also have a telephone consultation with many patients, even if they are a bit further away, or I always try to build up a network with colleagues so that the patients don't have to travel so far. And what I'm trying to do above all is that I really want this ingenious cranial acupuncture to continue, because Jamaat is now 96 and basically beggarly. And he invented this ingenious method, and it would be a shame if it didn't continue, because it's been like this for a long time. Yes, my mother did a course, many people heard about it and said, ah, great, fewer have implemented it, and that's why I always do courses for doctors and alternative practitioners, so that they simply learn the principle and pass it on. That's very important to me.
Yes, it absolutely has to continue. So my wish is that sooner or later the health insurance will pay for a helmet like this for every patient, so that they can work on it at home. It's produced once and then you can use it for as long as you need. And if you can also take fewer medications, depending on the situation.
That's definitely an advantage, but that's a very long way to go in Germany. I'm sure I won't experience that. I don't know how things are in Switzerland, but there is a bit of a shift towards naturopathy. There is hope though. I have to say, I am still very much a lone fighter. But I have some colleagues and also many alternative practitioners who really have the courage to implement this and who are really very satisfied. For example, there is an alternative practitioner in Stuttgart whose mother has Parkinson's, so it was of course predestined for her and she is now spreading the word. That is exactly what I would like to see.
Yes, nice. Yes, and the effect speaks for itself
the patients often notice it the first time, so I do it like this. If they come from further away, they spend 3 days with me. That means they are very intensive days. I see them for about an hour every day, and we live between Karlsruhe and Pforzheim, where the Black Forest is. You can also go on holiday there, and I then needle them, and then you can actually see an effect either as soon as they arrive or the next day. Then we make the helmet and get needled again, and then on the 3rd day, they get punctured again. Then they get shown the helmet and how it works. And then we have intensive vacation days and then we stay in touch and then every 3 months, depending on how things are going, so that I get feedback.
And it's been about 35 times now, I counted yesterday, that's how it is, and that actually makes me very happy because I see that I can really make a difference. Thank you very much for your creation of this helmet, for sticking with your passion project and continuing to fight. May this knowledge multiply and spread all over the world. I really hope that not only for you, but also for every single patient out there who can benefit from it. In my opinion, there's nothing better than being able to do something for your own health.
Exactly, that's the way to go, right? I also have a set of cards that you can learn relatively quickly here for therapists. You just have to remember where the points are. We have different cards here. I'll show you how to do it for therapists, but it also works for interested students. You know what to do and where to press the points, for example. There's
an instruction booklet included and all the points are marked on these cards. My husband is an engineer. He took these pictures, which are very easy to understand, so you can see the points. And then, because Parkinson's is my specific topic, I have a second book, which I published here in DTV. That was in connection with my last visit here. I was also given the opportunity to do that, and it's more of a story that came about because I have had patients in various studies, and I've always tried to turn them into scientific studies. This is also being used for MS and, it came about from conversations with patients.
And it also describes all the options that are available, from conventional medicine to herbs, and above all, it is a book of encouragement for patients and relatives. I am giving it to the Glock family.
Yes, I am very happy to do so. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me be here.
So, this is actually the reading material for starting out.
Yes, even
if you are already mentally down, so that you can regain your strength here and then slowly start towards recovery.
Exactly. Simply gain courage, involve relatives, inform friends, don't withdraw. That is the message. Thank you.
Very much. Now, if a few people have listened to us, I strongly assume that there are of course a few who are looking for a solution. And if you are now saying, hey, super exciting, I need more information now. On the one hand, about this sine wave plate and now also about this acupuncture on the skull, where can I find more information?
On my homepage. That's under my name and then also under therapeuticon.de, yes. And there are also various studies there. So I have also published several publications, including the path that led me to these points, and also a study 2 years ago with the SiWAVE, where we observed patients and where Parkinson's patients in particular benefited the most from the SiWAVE compared to other vertigo patients and so on. So, there is a lot to read about there and I am also happy to receive a call at any time. Feel free to answer.
Yes, great. Thank you very much. Do you have any final message that you would like to share with the viewers? I would be very happy to do so, which is why I am addressing you directly. If you have symptoms such as shoulder pain, small writing, or if you are even remotely concerned that it could be Parkinson's, go ahead and see your dermatologist and please talk to him about it. Don't be afraid of the diagnosis, because you have control over how the disease progresses. There are many ways. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you very much for your lovely closing remarks and many thanks for the enormous work you are doing here for us humans, so that we can now also work against this emerging disease in your case. Not against it, but for your health. Exactly. Yes. So, that is a very good sentence for health. Yes, let's use it as a headline. That's what we're doing. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope you will come back to my studio soon with new insights. I'm
working on it.
Great. Yes, dear viewers, I wish you the very best of health and I look forward to seeing you again next time when it's time for Health Television Vietnam. Thank you very much for enriching your Swiss health television with your attention, QS24. Discover Wikisana and find your safe place for holistic medical content. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will definitely not miss a new program. Our journey ends now, but yours can continue. Here's a list of further programs for you. I wish you all the best and the very best of health.